Welcome to This Explainer. If you're looking to find a bit more clarity and finally drop some of that heavy mental baggage, well, you're absolutely in the right place. Today, we are focusing directly on ACIM, Lesson 86, which is a review of Lessons 71 and 72. This is just an incredibly practical breakdown of two foundational spiritual concepts. We're going to strip away all the confusing jargon and translate these ideas into a totally actionable framework that you can use literally right now. So let's jump right in. The source text gives us two specific statements for review today. Number 71, only God's plan for salvation will work. And number 72, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. Basically, you can think of these two sentences as our entire roadmap for this explainer.
All right, let's dive into Lesson 71, Finding True Peace.
Okay, so whenever you see the word salvation in this text, I want you to try substituting it with ultimate peace or mental freedom. Listen to how perfectly this describes the human condition. It is senseless for me to search wildly about for salvation. I have seen it in many people and many things, but when I reached for it, it was not there. Wow. I mean, we've all experienced that kind of universal exhaustion, haven't we? Just endlessly searching for happiness in all the wrong places. What's really fascinating is when we translate that sort of esoteric text into our modern, everyday reality. Searching wildly for salvation is really just another way of saying we're expecting external things to make us permanently happy. But true peace, it's not sitting at the bottom of an Amazon shopping cart. It's not a promotion. It's not a new relationship that's going to magically fix everything. That external seeking, it literally always ends up empty. And that brings us right to the resolution of this first lesson. The text says, I was mistaken about where it is. I was mistaken about what it is. I will undertake no more idle seeking. Only God's plan for salvation will work. By simply admitting that we've been totally mistaken about where our happiness comes from, we actually give ourselves permission to just stop. We can finally end that exhausting cycle of idle seeking.
Moving right along to Section 2, Lesson 72, Dropping Your Grievances.
The source text really doesn't mince words here, and honestly, this is a massive roadblock for most of us. It says, holding grievances is an attempt to prove that God's plan for salvation will not work. Yet only His plan will work. By holding grievances, I am therefore excluding my only hope of salvation from my own awareness. Think of a grievance like the ultimate blindfold. When we hold on to one, we are actively choosing to block happiness from our own awareness. Let's quickly de-jargon that word, grievance, so we know exactly what we're dealing with. What does it actually mean for you and me on a regular Tuesday afternoon? Well, a grievance is holding a grudge. It's staying angry at someone for something they did in the past. It's playing the victim. It's all that heavy, everyday baggage that actively blocks your own mental freedom. So you see, it creates this totally negative, self-defeating cycle. First, you hold a grudge. And because of that grudge, you actively block your own peace. Which means, ultimately, you're just defeating your own best interests. The text actually calls this an insane way to live. Because really, why hold on to anger when it only guarantees your own misery? Dropping the grievance is pretty much the only logical way to accept peace.
Let's shift gears a bit for Section 3, Applying the Lessons Today, Bringing Concept to Practice.
So when you catch yourself anxiously searching for an external temporary fix today, maybe you're stressing over a situation at work, or you're desperately looking for some outside validation, the text actually gives us these specific phrases to ground ourselves. You can literally say to yourself, God's plan for salvation will save me from my perception of this. Or you can say, this is no exception in God's plan for my salvation. Or, simply, let me perceive this only in the light of God's plan for salvation. These are fantastic little mental resets you can use on the fly. And for the second lesson, the very second you feel a grievance, a judgment, or a grudge starting to bubble up against someone, deploy these phrases. Tell yourself, I am choosing between misperception and salvation as I look on this. Or remind yourself, if I see grounds for grievances in this, I will not see the grounds for my salvation. Actually, my personal favorite is the simplest one. This calls for salvation, not attack. I'm telling you, it instantly diffuses the anger. Now you might be wondering, okay, so how many times do I need to sit down and do this? Well, the source text says these ideas are for review today. Unlike some other lessons that give you a strict 5-minute timer, the instruction here is all about dynamic application. No timers needed. The goal is just to keep these ideas front and center in your mind, using the phrases dynamically throughout your day whenever a challenge pops up or whenever your peace of mind feels threatened.
All right, bringing it home. Section 4, Final Review and Takeaways. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is to remember our two main statements for today. Let's read them one last time to really lock them in. Number 71, only God's plan for salvation will work. Basically, stop looking outside yourself for lasting happiness. And number 72, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. Drop those grudges, guys, because they are only hurting you. If you found this explainer helpful and you're enjoying this clear, structured way of breaking things down, please take a quick second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's a huge help to us, and it makes sure you won't miss any of our upcoming deep dives. To wrap things up, I want to leave you with a direct challenge. What is one grievance, just one specific grudge, frustration, or resentment that you are going to intentionally let go of today so you can reclaim your own peace? Give it some thought. Try out the phrases we learned, and take your peace back. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.